Well, we're small today, but we're mighty, letting our light shine. Sometimes I think that our church is full of souls who are no longer in the body. And they sit in all of these pews. And so for just a moment, I'm going to talk to them, okay? Okay, you guys, we know that you're here, and we know that you want to hear this, and I want you to know that you're blessed. But you're not in the body anymore. And so I would like you to just float. Float. You float very easily. Just float and listen and leave the seats for people in the body. Thank you. Years ago, I told this story once before, I'm going to tell it again. Years ago when I was in ministry, Jane's husband was taken to the hospital in an emergency. He was blind in one eye and he had an infection in the other, and they were just really all upset. She'd been in the hospital for maybe an hour, hour and a half, and she called me and she said, "Vi, I can't pray." She said, "I keep trying to pray, I keep trying to affirm, and I can't pray." And you know, that happens to us sometimes. We just can't pray. And I always think of that as our prayers up here, just going around in a circle and not really getting any energy so that they can operate. So we did an affirmation. The presence and power of God is now at work in all of the people involved in your husband's care. And he is blessed and healed, and we give it to you, God. He did not have an immediate healing because most of us don't. It takes time for the body to adjust. But in a couple of days, he was released and his eye was perfect. So prayer is a foundation of the unity movement. And how do we pray? How do we pray? A lot of people pray, God, I need a job. Get me a job. We ask for things, and that's the purpose of our prayer. We're asking God for something. That's regular prayer. Unity prayer is in a different way. Our way is affirmative prayer. So if we're sick and we need help, or we want a job, we say, you know, God, I know that you're leading me to exactly the right employment for me, and all is blessed. Now, the difference is that, oh God, I need a job. We see blankness, we see emptiness. There really isn't any energy to bring that forward. But when we pray affirmative prayer, we are certain that this is a reality and it's going to happen. Jesus tells us, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, ask and it will be done for you. And he's not saying beg or beseech. He's saying, you know, this is the way, affirmative prayer. And, you know, I'm always saying, we ask God in many ways. And we don't always say, I ask God. If you have a friend that you want to go with you to a movie, you don't say, can I ask you to go to a movie? Or if we are having a group together, we don't say, you know, can I ask you? We just do it. And so that's the kind of way that we pray, and we pray positively. Our unity movement grew out of Myrtle Fillmore's healing. She had been given a very short time to live. She had her father's family's illness, which was tuberculosis, and at that time there wasn't much you could do for TB. She got along with it okay for a while, and then they moved to Kansas City, and it got worse. They were looking everywhere for help. She was a devout Methodist, but they wanted some help. It didn't seem to be doing anything. They went to every kind of prayer meeting they could find. Finally, somehow, they got into a meeting that was led by a man named E.B. Weeks. We have not heard another word about him since then. But he was a metaphysician out of the metaphysical school in Chicago that Emma Curtis Hopkins had. The one thing that she heard in that meeting really touched her heart. I am a child of God. Therefore, I do not inherit sickness. There's the affirmation, I am a child of God. And the denial, I do not inherit sickness. We have that where we're calling in the energy that we want to do the healing and saying no to anything else. So that's what Linda was talking about last week, affirmation and denial. So Myrtle, after she heard that, decided that she would pray because she was a child of God. She didn't inherit sickness. And so she went, she made arrangements to stay in her room. And it was a good thing because her mother-in-law lived with them and could take care of the children. And she would sit and she would pray. She'd pray and pray and pray. And she began to think about prayer in her physical body. And she decided, she knew that every cell in her physical body had intelligence. And in order to activate that intelligence, she had to direct it. And then she thought, how do I direct it? She did not sit down and pray, although she did off and on, but she thanked every atom and cell in her body. She went through her whole body and thanked it for what it does. She went through her whole body and asked it to forgive her. And she prayed. And the prayer that I remember most, it was Bible verse, and I remember it most because it's so short. And the prayer is, the Bible verse is, that you want to be healed. And we might say, yeah, I want to be healed. But do we really? If we were healed, if we did not have this condition, what would our life be like? How would we be in the world? So do you want to be healed? Do you want to be prosperous? I want to be prosperous. I am prosperous. You want to be prosperous. Do you really want that? Think of the responsibilities. Are you ready to do the responsibilities that are involved in that? So do you want to be healed? And she worked with that, and I think the other one was, where two or three are gathered, there I am in the midst of them, and whatever you ask in my name will be done for you. Whatever you ask in my name. And she asked by prayer. That was her asking. My body is well. You know, we have this little song that we sing, every little cell is happy and well in our body. And she began to come out, begin to heal. And then people saw what was happening to her, And people would come to her and ask her how it was, and that's how Unity started. They started with prayer groups. So how do we pray? How do we pray? Do we pray in a way that generates constructive energy? You'll notice that I usually use the words constructive and destructive. I do not like positive and negative. Because our affirmations and our happy thoughts and our good thoughts are constructive. They build us up. They build consciousness. But those that sit around and say, poor me, or what am I going to do, or we get really mired in what's wrong in our life, that's destructive. So that's why I say constructive and destructive. So one of the things that we don't realize, I think, that prayer gathers energy. We might say it turns on the energy. And that energy is a healing power. One of the things we don't realize is that we are magnetic energy beings, and our energy has a certain frequency. And what happens is that frequency brings all of that to us that is in accord with that frequency. So if we're mostly on the constructive side, then we attract that kind of thing. If we're not, if we're concentrated on the destructive time, then our good is pushed away. You know, when you have two magnets and you put them together in a certain way, they gravitate to each other. But if you turn one of them, they repel. And that's what happens to us when we get mired in our destructive stuff. I often think of our energy, I often compare it to electricity. Electricity is always there. It was there before we knew it was there. It's always there. We had to find a way to see it or use it so that it would be constructive in our life. So when we pray, we are plugging into that electricity. We are plugging into God. We open ourselves to God. Now, one of us, say we're light bulbs, one of us in that room with the light on, with our light on, we throw light. And people who are in the room with us enjoy that light. Some people may not be as much in that light because they're over here in a dark corner, which is okay. But if we have two lights, we have more light, and it reaches further into the room. We together, when we pray, light up this room. We light it so bright that it spreads out all around us and blesses everything all around us. We are energy beings, and we're always radiating light. I lost my choo-choo, my train of thought. Prayer, Jesus said, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. He's not only talking about people. He's talking about our thoughts and our feelings. And remember, every thought has a feeling. And so when we pray, our thinking has to be in alignment with that. Now, it's not going to be in alignment 100%. You're not going to do it 100%. But if you do it, it's better than if you don't. So it goes back to the law of mind action. Whatever we think about will become a reality in our lives in some way. So when we pray, then we take that with us into the day. I used to, and I still do, carry a card with something that I'm working on and put it in my wallet and carry it so that I remember that it's there and I get it. Not all the time, but enough so that it makes a difference. So, where two or more are gathered in my name, and what is Jesus' nature? Because name means nature. So pray as I pray, in my nature. And what is this nature that Jesus prays in? It's the essence of who he is love. The essence of who he is goodness. The essence of who he knows that he is an expression of God. So, and he knows when he prays, he doesn't say, what if? He said, it's this way. You ask believing, and it will be done for you. So what are we asking for? What are we asking for? Today, I ask for this community. God is now present in this place. God's presence is always in this place. God's presence is within you. God is waiting to express in you. And as we pray, we open ourselves to that expression of God and let it express through us, minute by minute, day by day, week by week. Because it takes consistently for us to become that. It takes consistency. And it's a process. Please remember it's a process. You know, I liked what our speaker said on Sunday, that it's a process. It doesn't happen all at once. It can, but it usually doesn't. So this wonderful community, and you who are this wonderful community, we give to God. That's our prayer. God, move in and through this place. Let us be a blessing in our world. Let our light shine brightly so that we attract goodness and we have goodness to give. Do we want that? Are we willing to do it? Express it? Accept it? I say, yay, God, yes. And that's the truth.